Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Friendly Nuclear News. It's Elina, your friendly nuclear reporter, and today we're going to be diving into news around the nuclear industry. Without further ado, let's get into it. So, our first news of the day. Apple issues iPhone 12 software update in France over radiation concerns. Okay, Apple, let's see what's up. France halted sales on iPhone 12 over concerns of excessive radiation level. The specific absorption rate, SARS, exceeded the legal limit. Okay, why? You have been doing phones for so long. SARS measures how the human body absorbs energy from radio frequency exposure. Apple disputed the findings, but plans to comply with France's requirements. Apple will release a software update to limit power usage when the contact with static surfaces. Apple have sensors to reduce transmission power when near the body. The agency in France that tested the Apple iPhone 12 did not consider that. Apple emphasized that the iPhone 12 safety and compliance with energy transmission regulations is of high priority. The software update disables body detection technology to maintain lower transmission power levels. The update will be available for users in France this month. Interesting. We're going to get our expert nuclear physicists to give us their expert opinion in this topic. Thanks for having me. Let's dig into it a little bit. It's interesting how it's only France that detected this level. Why is it particular to iPhones shipped or sold in France and not in the rest of Europe, since the whole of European Union shares the same limit for SARS? And I would also like to make a quick search and see how much is this level actually. The United States allows 1.6 watt per gram over 1 gram of tissue, whereas the European Union allows 2 watt per kilogram over 10 grams of tissue, which means that if you, I don't know why they reported over 1 gram versus 10 grams, so it would be more representative to report it based on the same unit, so you know exactly the difference between US and Europe. But in any case, if it's 2 watt per kilogram over 10 grams of tissue, that means that for 1 gram of tissue, this is 0.2. So 0.2 is something like 8 times less than the allowed value in USA, which begs the question as to why this is happening, why both countries have different values and not one, since the values are based on the effect on the human body. I guess this would be interesting to see. It's nice that Apple is fixing this. I am a little bit curious as to why they didn't do it in the first place. It's a thing that we know. SARS is a limit to measure the specific absorption rate in phones, so it's nothing new. But it's nice that they caught up into this and that they're going to fix it up. Back to you. Support for nuclear has grown dramatically, says Global Agency Chief. 20 countries gathered at the Roadmaps to New Nuclear Conference in Paris, where they committed to using nuclear power to achieve net zero emission target. The shift towards nuclear energy is one of the largest global accord shifts in decades. The shift began after the 2015 conference in Paris in order to fight climate change and deal with the increase in energy demand. Financing new projects at the rise of small modular reactors was one of the key topics in the French conference, which is great to hear, since the whole nuclear industry is moving towards that. The Net Zero Nuclear Initiative calls for tripling global power of nuclear use by 2050. Ensuring a quality supply chain and adhering to non-proliferation standards are essential. I think this is a topic our expert nuclear physicists would like to dive deep into. This is great news to hear, and since France is the country in Europe that has the biggest amount of nuclear power and the biggest electricity production coming from nuclear in the whole of the European Union, it is excellent that they are starting these kind of initiatives and will hopefully drive the same interest and work in the rest of the European countries as well. It is important to also mention that it was actually recently that there was a conference between France and Sweden where they discussed future collaborations and things they could work together with in order to increase the use of nuclear power in both countries and to make more widely collaborative agreements between two countries. And as I said, hopefully the rest of the countries will follow. In this conference between the French and Swedish nuclear research talks, there was a panel discussion where I was invited to speak about nuclear education, which is excellent to see that it's starting to exist as a topic in conferences related to nuclear energy, as it is one of the most important things to also consider, besides the research itself, is the public and the public awareness and education on nuclear. So there was very great discussions happening around this area, and it is important to remember always that together with the research and the public awareness, alongside, hand by hand, we can drive change and even more interest into the industry itself. Back to you. Next item in our friendly nuclear news, Vattenfall, which is a Swedish energy company, takes the next step towards new nuclear power. Vattenfall is planning to build 2 nuclear reactors, but they're going to be small modular reactors, not the typical big ones that Sweden already has as of now. And because of that, they have been collaborating with companies outside of Sweden, such as the Fermi Energia in Estonia, and taking interest in how the SMRs are going to be built in Sweden and what is the new considerations that Vattenfall has to take into place that differentiate SMRs from generation 2 and 3 reactors in order to go ahead and practically start considering building SMRs in the country. Therefore, Vattenfall representatives will visit countries that also target to build SMRs, such as Canada, France, UK, United States, and South Korea. And from there, they will learn from the experts and gain some insights to bring back into the country and start implementing all the knowledge that they have learned. On a side note, it is great to see that Vattenfall is taking such initiatives and practically tries to drive this innovation forward and not just in paper, since Sweden as a country in general has lifted the ban on the number of nuclear power plants that can be built and operating in Sweden, which means now the country can have more nuclear reactors, and it is essential to consider this kind of new technology such as SMR and the benefits and potentials that it can offer to the country. Of course, this is an impartial opinion of a reporter who's delivering news and facts, and we will see how this will play out. It will be nice to follow along, and you will be informed. Next topic, Sweden criticized over plan to build at least 10 nuclear reactors. So interestingly enough, this is controversial compared to the previous topic that we discussed. The Swedish government plans to build at least 10 new nuclear reactors in the next 2 decades to meet climate goals and double electricity production. And this move has been criticized by the environmental experts, who are arguing that it is too expensive and late to meet the energy needs. They suggest that expanding electricity production in Sweden is currently focused on wind power. Some experts also suggest that this move is more of a symbolic move than actually a practical solution towards the climate change and meeting the energy goals. The government plan is seen by some as an attempt to divert focus from the immediate energy needs and newer energy storage developments. Our friend nuclear physicist expert has a few words to say. Thank you, it's great to be back. I have a few words on the report that we just saw. It is of course important to consider both sides, the environmental experts as well as the people who are promoting the new installations of nuclear power in the country. Nevertheless, everything has to be considered in context and based on what's actually useful and necessary to meet the goal, which is combating climate change and reaching the energy needs that the country needs, that both of these parties can agree on, that this is what we need to do. So in this case, it is always important to keep developing and keep advancing the renewable energies, as they are essential to the energy mix that is going to be present now and in the future. However, at the moment, we do need to consider nuclear power in this mix as well, since it is pretty much the only energy that will give us this dense amount of power that we require now to transition to a fossil fuel-free energy production for Sweden and globally in general. Therefore, in this case, I am a little bit critical of the environmental experts who criticize the plan for being too expensive or too late, in a sense that we can always complain that something is late, but if we never start it, it will always be late, right? So it has to start from somewhere, and it's starting now. And I think it's excellent that it does, because it will start now. It might take a few years to develop, but eventually when it will be developed, it will be used and implemented and useful for the industry, generally speaking, and for the energy production that the countries will only need more and more of in the next decades. Thank you to our expert for their insightful opinions and views, and let's move on to the last news of the day. First ever Nuclear Energy Summit to be held in Brussels in March 2024. So the first ever Nuclear Energy Summit will be held next year in Brussels. It will be co-hosted by the Atomic Energy Agency. It will be co-hosted by the International Atomic Energy Agency and Belgium to promote the role of nuclear in the future. It will aim to address global challenges such as how to reduce the fossil fuel use, how to enhance the energy security, and boosting economic developments. It will gather for over 30 countries that will participate, together with industry leaders, experts, and the civil society. It will be a high-level discussion. It will have scientific debates and policy debates as well. So it would be very interesting to follow along. They have a goal, which is Atom for Net Zero is what they're targeting for, and it's an initiative for a net zero emission scenario. And in that case, the nuclear power is projected by them to double by 2050. In the previous report, we saw that the power of nuclear is estimated to be tripled by 2050. Here is estimated to be doubled. Of course, the numbers vary a little bit, but it's still good to see that the movement is pretty coherent between the different countries and between the different industry leaders and the rest. It will be important to mention here and see if the summit will actually have a social aspect and perspective on nuclear, since it is great that high-level discussions will take place amongst many countries. However, discussions such as how to approach the topic from a social perspective and on the importance of nuclear education and public awareness around the nuclear power are essential to drive development and advancements in the nuclear industry in total. Thank you for tuning in for this first episode of the Friendly Nuclear News. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about these reports and your opinions. Let's have a discussion in the comment section. Also, you can send me in other news that you would like me or our expert guest to discuss on. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. It's been Elina, your friendly nuclear reporter, and until next time, see you soon.